Apollo rushes into the defendant lobby and finds that Trucy is perfectly fine. In fact, the hitman who had a knife to her was actually... Ah! What the heck is that? It turns out that Mr. Hat here is among her signature tricks, and it's not the only one she shows Apollo during the recess. She tells him that she can perceive Wesley's uncertainty, much like how Apollo was able to tell when Olga was lying in the last case. She explains that, each time he lied, he'd squeeze his book a bit, much like a stress ball. Not just Wesley. Phoenix brought her to play poker with him from time to time, and she'd give him signals about his opponents. Apollo continues to doubt her, but Trucy assures him that they'll be fine. Apollo asks to cross-examine Wesley once again, this time armed with the knowledge of his nervous tic. After hearing the testimony, Apollo's bracelet squeezes his arm to signal that this testimony is indeed suspicious. Trucy reminds him of his book-turning habit, and all he has to do is wait for Wesley to get nervous. As soon as Wesley mentions that he used a cell phone, Apollo senses his jitter and calls him out. He asks to see the phone, making the witness even more frantic, before pulling it out to prove that he dropped it at the victim's garage. Wesley actually used a public payphone, and Apollo argues that, "You broke into the Maractus Clinic garage on the night of the murder! This cell phone tells all!" Apollo has proof that it was dropped that night in particular. The victim's car would have rolled over the phone if it drove, and the side view mirror that hit Phoenix proves that it was parked there that night. It looks like Wesley's about to be indicted for the murder of Dr. Maractus, but there seems to be no connection between the two. Wesley insists that he saw the crime scene clearly, and Apollo's lie detector bracelet doesn't react. He asks about the noodle stand, and Wesley notes that it said noodle from where he stood. Apollo realizes the contradiction. From the south side of the park, the sign says El Dunes. The sign does say noodle if it's read from the north side. But if Dr. Maractus faced northward to meet Wesley's shout, Waki couldn't have shot him in the right temple, and Wesley could have! Still, there's no connection between Wesley and Maractus, and there is another reason that could lead to his lie. The investigation did turn up Trucy's magic prop and a lookalike from Plum Kataki, the latter of which was found in a trash can on the north side of the park, and the former found inside Dr. Maractus' car. Wesley Stickler was the one who stole Trucy's magic prop, and as a university student, it was also he could understand the magic behind its tricks. Wonky was proven to be at the scene, but the testimony points to him not being able to kill the victim. An intriguing midpoint for an intriguing case. Wesley, much like Olga, has a convincing non-murderous reason to lie, with a few unintentional inaccuracies such as the gun versus Shiv testimony that show the player that not every witness is even lying on purpose. However, I do think Olga is handled far better than Wesley. Her existence feels much more necessary and influential to Turnabout Trump than Wesley's, whose thievery could be cut entirely from this case. Frankly, I find him and the subject matter of his thefts to be disgusting, regardless of the comedy that it's all meant to invoke. For more context on what exactly he stole, you can watch my dub. A link to the playlist is in the description and comments. On the topic of this case's numerous mysteries, most of them have been resolved now. Dr. Maractus hit Phoenix, and then Wesley dropped his phone in the garage after stealing Trucy's magic prop, and Maractus stole Guy's noodle stand. But the reason is unclear, and it's even less clear who did, or who could have, shot the victim. It is nice to see how these crimes connect, and they'll stir themselves together even more by the end of the case. For now, though, things are still as murky as a seasoned bowl of noodles, and yes, I will make noodle puns for the rest of this case.